The week around the Chicago Bears never really slows down, and this one feels heavier, louder, and more meaningful than most. Coming off a short turnaround, the focus immediately shifts to availability, preparation, and what kind of version of this team is going to walk onto the field against Green Bay. With the condensed schedule, the Bears treated the early work more like a walkthrough, and that context matters when reading into who was present and who was not. Still, absences always raise eyebrows, especially when the stakes are this high. Andrew Billings dealing with an illness is one of those situations that feels simple on paper but can swing quickly. Illness can clear up fast, or it can linger just enough to impact a game. And that uncertainty is something the Bears will have to monitor closely as kickoff approaches. Luther Burden's status continues to be one of the more delicate storylines. The ankle issue has kept him in a day-to-day category, and with how careful this staff has been all season, there is a real sense that they will not rush anything if there is even a hint of risk. The same careful logic applies to Rome Odunze, whose situation has already sparked conversations about protecting him long-term rather than forcing him into action too early. In a season where the Bears are clearly thinking beyond a single week, decisions like these become about the bigger picture, not just surviving one rivalry game. On the limited side, seeing Tremaine Edmunds working his way back into the mix is encouraging. His return window being open adds another layer of intrigue, because his presence changes the entire feel of the defense, especially in coverage. Even with the short week complicating things, the possibility of having him back sooner rather than later feels like a boost this unit badly wants. Cole Kmet showing up as limited is not something that automatically sets off alarms. Veteran players often get managed carefully, especially when there is any combination of ankle or knee soreness. What matters more is the trend over the next couple of practice reports, because the Bears know how important his reliability is for keeping the offense on schedule. Tyson Bagent returning as a full participant after missing time is another quiet positive, adding stability to a room that values preparation and readiness. When you step back and look at the injury picture as a whole, it is about as clean as the Bears could realistically hope for at this point in the season. Key defensive names not appearing on the report matters, and it gives this team a chance to line up close to full strength when it counts. Across the sideline, Green Bay is dealing with its own list of concerns, and that reality cannot be ignored. Multiple absences and non-participants create openings, but openings only matter if you are sharp enough to attack them. There is no sense in pretending this rivalry ever needs extra motivation, but the context of injuries, standings, and timing turns this matchup into something that feels almost like postseason football already. The Bears understand that, and the conversation naturally shifts toward leadership, execution, and the quarterback at the center of it all. Caleb Williams has been open about holding himself accountable, especially when reflecting on the last meeting with Green Bay. That interception late in the game still sits with him, and you can hear it in the way he talks about this rematch. There is excitement, but there's also a clear awareness that moments like that define how quarterbacks are judged in this league. He knows that playing cleaner, faster, and more decisive football gives the Bears control over their own fate. When he talks about the confidence he felt in the win against Cleveland, it is not just about numbers, it is about rhythm. Completing passes early, moving the chains, and letting the offense breathe from the opening drive changes everything about how this team operates. Fast starts have become a recurring theme for a reason. The Bears have seen firsthand how falling behind forces them into uncomfortable situations, especially against disciplined teams. Against Cleveland, the offense moved with purpose from the opening snap, and that set the tone for the entire game. That lesson did not come out of nowhere. It was sharpened by the frustration of the earlier Green Bay loss, where opportunities existed but were not fully capitalized on. Caleb understands that while football is never solely on the quarterback, the reality of the position means he will always carry the weight of the results. Wins and losses follow the quarterback, fair or not, and that is part of the responsibility he signed up for. The challenge now is sustaining that level of play against a familiar opponent that has historically had the upper hand. Green Bay's recent dominance in the series is not something the Bears can talk their way around. It has to be addressed on the field, with execution across all 4 quarters. Caleb's performance in the second half of the previous matchup showed flashes of what is possible when he settles in, and pairing that with a complete game, like the one against Cleveland, is the formula the Bears are chasing. Injuries on the other side may help, but no one in the locker room believes that relying on that alone is a winning mindset. Control comes from preparation, discipline, and taking advantage of what is in front of you. The running game remains a critical piece of that equation. Establishing physicality early helps take pressure off the quarterback and forces defenses to respect every look. With Green Bay missing key bodies up front, this is an opportunity to dictate terms rather than react. Caleb, as the leader of the offense, knows that balance is what allows him to be at his best. It is about making the right reads, delivering accurate throws, and avoiding the kind of mistakes that swing momentum in rivalry games. As the season tightens and the margin for error shrinks, these details become magnified, and how the Bears handle them will say a lot about who they are becoming as a team. As much as the spotlight naturally finds the quarterback, this stretch of the season is just as revealing for the rest of the roster, especially a defense that knows it left plays on the field the last time these two teams met. There were moments early in that game where the Bears did exactly what they wanted to do, forcing stops and keeping Green Bay out of the end zone, only to watch those efforts go unrewarded. In rivalry games, that kind of imbalance can flip quickly, and everyone in the building understands how different the tone feels if the offense cashes in on even one of those early opportunities. That is why the message coming out of the locker room has been less about panic and more about precision, about understanding that against top competition, a handful of plays often decide everything. The defensive line sits right at the heart of that conversation. Overall production has been uneven this season, and while there have been flashes of dominance, consistency has been harder to come by. Recently, there has been progress, fueled by better pressure numbers and a more aggressive approach up front. Games where quarterbacks are hit repeatedly change how offenses call plays, and that effect compounds as the game wears on. Still, it is one thing to show that against certain opponents, and another to bring it every snap in a matchup like this. The Bears know that controlling the line of scrimmage is not optional here. It is the foundation for everything else they want to do defensively. Veteran leadership plays a role in setting that tone, and the mindset coming from the defensive front reflects an understanding of the moment. Respect for the opponent does not mean fear, and that distinction matters. Green Bay's quarterback has shown the ability to put the ball exactly where it needs to go, especially when given time, and that is where the Bears' emphasis on limiting explosive plays comes into focus. Big gains have been the difference in past meetings, turning competitive stretches into uphill battles. Cleaning that up is less about reinventing the scheme and more about discipline, communication, and finishing plays that are there to be made. The atmosphere at Soldier Field is expected to mirror the intensity on the field, and that energy cuts both ways. When the crowd is engaged, it feeds the defense, amplifies pressure, and makes every snap feel heavier for the visiting offense. The Bears have talked openly about embracing that environment rather than letting it overwhelm them. In games like this, emotional control becomes just as important as physical execution. Playing fast does not mean playing reckless, and the teams that thrive in these moments are usually the ones that stay locked into their assignments while the noise swells around them. Up front, individual performances have started to trend upward. Edge rushers finding their rhythm, interior defenders pushing the pocket, and rotational players contributing meaningful snaps all add up over 4 quarters. When pressure comes from multiple angles, it forces quicker decisions and creates chances for the secondary to capitalize. That is where having key players available on the back end matters so much. Coverage improves when communication is clean, and the margin for error shrinks for the opposing quarterback. If the Bears can marry pressure with sound coverage, they put themselves in position to dictate the pace of the game. All of this ties back to the broader picture of where the Bears are as a team right now. They have already taken meaningful steps forward this season, locking in a winning record and putting themselves in contention deep into the year. That progress is real, and it deserves acknowledgement. At the same time, the standard shifts once you reach this stage. The question is no longer whether this team is improved, but whether it can rise to meet the level of competition that defines playoff-caliber football. These final games are not just about standings, they're about measuring growth under pressure. For Caleb Williams, that pressure is part of the evaluation process. The league judges quarterbacks harshly, especially when games carry this kind of weight. He has shown that he can respond, that he can bounce back from mistakes, and deliver when the offense finds its rhythm. Now the challenge is doing it repeatedly against defenses that are studying every tendency and looking to exploit every hesitation. Accuracy, decision-making, and situational awareness all come into sharper focus. Avoiding interceptions in critical moments, recognizing blitz looks, and making adjustments at the line are not optional skills anymore. They are expectations. The Bears' passing numbers reflect a unit that is solid but still searching for another gear. There is talent at the skill positions, and the scheme has shown the ability to generate openings, but translating that into sustained production has been inconsistent. That inconsistency is why the upcoming stretch feels like such a proving ground. Facing multiple teams with postseason ambitions forces clarity. You either execute at a high level or you get exposed. There is very little in between. How Caleb stacks up against other quarterbacks in these matchups will shape how this season is remembered and how the future is discussed. At the same time, the responsibility does not rest on one player alone. Offensive line play, pass protection, and eliminating drops all factor into whether the quarterback can operate comfortably. Football is still the ultimate team sport, and the Bears have seen what happens when every unit pulls in the same direction. When that alignment is there, this team looks capable of going toe-to-toe with anyone. When it slips, even briefly, the consequences are immediate. That is the reality of playing meaningful games in December. What makes this moment so compelling is that it represents both an opportunity and a test. The Bears have already climbed out of the phase where rebuilding was the primary conversation. Now they're stepping into a phase where expectations start to change, where simply being competitive is no longer enough. Growth at this level is uncomfortable by nature. Mistakes get magnified, criticism gets louder, and every decision feels heavier. But that discomfort is also where development happens, where players learn what it truly takes to win consistently in this league. As this rivalry game approaches, the sense around the team is not one of desperation, but of urgency. There's a difference. Desperation leads to forcing plays and abandoning discipline. Urgency sharpens focus and elevates execution. The Bears know they let an earlier opportunity slip away, and that memory lingers. What matters now is how they respond, how they channel that frustration into smarter football, cleaner execution, and a willingness to meet the moment head-on when everything is on the line and there is no room to hide. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Chicago Bears. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Jordan Love has found himself at the center of an unexpected storm in the NFL after reacting sharply to a comment made by Ben Johnson that has quickly spread across sports media. The remark, which questioned Love's ability to lead and implied that his team is outclassed by other contenders, has sparked a wave of speculation about what might be brewing behind the scenes in the league. Love, known for his composure under pressure and his quiet confidence, didn't hold back this time. Sources close to the quarterback suggest that his response wasn't just about defending his own performance, but also about sending a message to critics that he won't be underestimated. What makes this situation even more intriguing is the implicit comparison to the Chicago Bears, whom Johnson apparently touted as a superior team. The suggestion that Love's squad is somehow less than the Bears has fueled rumors that tension is simmering not just between players and commentators, but also within locker rooms that are hyper-aware of their public image. Insiders speculate that Love's pointed response could be a strategic move, signaling to both fans and analysts that he and his team are not only aware of the criticism, but ready to use it as motivation. Analysts are now dissecting every possible implication. Could this spark a shift in how Love approaches his next games? Some say that he thrives under pressure, and this public confrontation may actually galvanize his team. Others wonder whether this could hint at deeper divisions in the NFL, where player commentary and media narratives increasingly shape the perception of team hierarchy. The Bears' reputation as a powerhouse, coupled with Johnson's remark, has set the stage for what some are calling a potential statement season for Love. While it remains to be seen how this will play out on the field, the chatter off the field is undeniable. Fans and pundits alike are eagerly waiting to see if Love's fiery reaction translates into performance that can silence critics or further inflame debate about NFL supremacy. One thing is certain: the league is buzzing, and every game now carries the added weight of expectation and scrutiny. As the rumor mill churns, speculation about whether Love's response marks a turning point in his career or simply a heated moment in a long season continues to grow, making this one of the most talked about stories in the sport right now. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Chicago Bears, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.